Streets and Scholars, Alex Alonso and FG, here to bring you guys another banger, and I'm here with the Eastside General. FG, what's going on with you, man?
Man, what's poppin' with it, Alex? How your morning going?
Oh, everything's going good over here, and
That's what's up.
just going over a few topics for the people, man. So how's the family? How's work? How's everybody treating you right now?
Oh man, man, I feel like Rodney Dangerfield sometimes, man. You know what I mean? I just get no respect, but you know how it is, man. Trying to get my daughter off, my last kid off to college, man. So, she trying to narrow it down with these last few. So this will be the last one, man. Last prom, last graduation. Hey man, shit, it's moving fast too.
So the last one is how old? 17?
17, 17, yeah.
Oh.
So, yep.
So yeah, we got my son's 17, so we got same age, senior, right?
Yep, senior. Yep. So we're trying to do all that. I got prom in 2 weeks, and get, like I say, getting ready to getting together the college dorm items that they need, and all those things, man. My wife do a good job in making sure they got all the shit they need, man. Because I be at work. You know what I mean? So
you're getting no respect over there like Rodney Dangerfield, huh?
Man, it's just family shit. When you got a lot of kids, man, they know how to sock it to your pockets. But at the same time, man, I'm blessed to have them all, to be honest with you.
I tell you, I met this girl one day. She told me, she told me, come on over. So I went over there. She told me, come on over. There's nobody home. And I went over there and there was nobody home.
Right.
No
Rodney Dangerfield.
I know a lot of youngsters probably ain't never even heard
Don't
of
even
Rodney.
know who we talking about yet. Don't even know I be forgetting about that, man. We say things that, like you say, they don't even understand and shit.
I think I might have told you this before. I was at the studio with Glasses Malone and Ice-T. And I had my son with me. I don't remember which one was with me. One of my sons was with me, and my son could see that whoever this Ice-T guy is, he's a big deal because everybody was around him. So my pop said, "Who is that?" I said, "That's Ice-T." So he went on Instagram and looked him up and was like, "Oh wow, he got 1 million followers." I was like, "Yeah, Ice-T is a legendary rapper in this West Coast history." Didn't have a clue who that guy was.
Right. No doubt.
All right, man. Let's start off here, man. We got a few topics. In fact, I want to let the people know what we're going to talk about today. We're gonna tap back in with the BTB Savage story because we saw this little video about a guy that's pretty close to the story, and he dropped a couple controversial gems that we're gonna respond to, and then there's this video of a school teacher, a sister, that got put hands on a student over her cell phone use. And that video is going viral right now, and everybody's trying to figure out, was the teacher right for putting hands on her?
Right.
And we'll talk about that. And of course, the 84-year-old man over there in Kansas City, I believe it's Kansas City, Missouri, that shot Ralph Yari, shot him because he knocked on the door or pressed the doorbell, and he's facing some charges right now. And we're going to give a little Shanquella Robinson update. That's the young lady that got killed in Mexico after she was visiting with her friends, after one of her friends put hands on her.
Yeah.
But before we get into all of that, I had to respond to Reggie Wright Jr. because I guess he tapped in with Streets and Scholars last episode. That would have been, that would have been episode
59?
59. I believe that was episode 59, where I just basically talked about being responsible on this internet, speaking responsible on this social media, especially from the street perspective, because they get to over there. They get to talking about murders. They get to finger pointing who did what, and I noticed that he kind of slowed up a little bit on it because I guess he had no idea. No one thought that certain people were going to come home. But that's all I was trying to do was just say we need to speak more responsible about the way about the topics that we talk about. And let me just show you what I'm not going to play the video, but I do want to show you the title that Reggie Wright put on this video. Let's see here. He actually has a video where he titled it "Why Street TV and Other YouTubers Use Reggie Wright's name for views." And in that episode that we did last week, I never mentioned his name at all. I never even said Reggie Wright. I never said Bomb First. I just said, hey, we got to be more responsible about talking about these things. Because, he went on Vlad TV and said people was responsible for killing people. And his boy Mob James went on Vlad TV talking about people was responsible for killing people. And I think they're getting so comfortable over there talking about things like that because we've all spoke about the Tupac situation. We've all spoke about the Biggie situation because the alleged shooters in those cases are deceased. But
Mm.
people aren't the alleged shooters in other cases aren't deceased, and I think we should just cease from talking about things like that so publicly, man. That's all I was trying to say, and then Reggie had to clap back talking about we talking about him for views, and I never even mentioned bro's name.
Yeah, but you got to look at it in two ways, though, Alex. You know what I mean? If I wasn't, say, if I was just a listener, you know what I mean, I would have figured you was talking about it. Just based on if I watch both of y'all channels or I'm subscribed to both of y'all channels, I would have figured the same thing. Just to be honest with you, so but you didn't say his name, but he did have a point. But I do want to point out as far as you or me or anybody else, like you say, we talk our shit and we say what we would like to happen on, say, these social media platforms and things of this nature. But you really got to respect that the next man channel is the next man channel, man. And what they say on their channel, what they do on their channel, at the end of the day, we shouldn't even care or we shouldn't even give a fuck, even if it bothered you, me, or anybody else in some kind of way. It's their channel, bro, and they gonna talk their shit on their channel just like we talk our shit on ours, So, um, but in all honesty, I would have thought you was, but I know y'all partners though, so I didn't take it as, disrespect. I mean, I didn't take it like, you know what I mean, I know y'all partners, so I looked at it like a friendly, camaraderie and shit. We gonna talk our shit, and move on. But you know how this YouTube shit go, man.
Yeah, but I don't think I talk a whole lot of shit when I'm on here. I'm just here to discuss a couple of topics.
Oh, you
Bring
talk some shit, bro. You do it, you do it smooth and shit, but you slide that shit up in there, man, and we catch it. You know what I mean? You subtle with it, but like I say, it's all fun and games long as we doing what we supposed to be doing here on Streets and Scholars. What you go on Street TV, I'm never gonna call you and say, Alex, why you say that on Street TV, man? Why I'm not gonna do that, bro, because that's your channel. You know what I mean? And that's just how the real is, bro. But I think he did hit you, say you use his name for views, and then guess what? He just used his name. So you know what I mean? You might clap back again if that fell fall. That's
It's all good. It's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
But I did hear him say that the reason why he ain't speaking on certain people is because they reached out and basically just asked him, "Hey, can you stop talking about it?" And he's respecting that. But I think at the same time, BJ from Bounty Hunter, Harry O, and Bosco from Queen Street, which he alleges that they're all snitches. I'm sure they don't want him talking about them. So we'll see. But I can tell you right now, BJ from Bounty Hunter, I have no information that he ever took the stand in that Hawkins case of 1984, as Reggie Wright stated in this video. We got the picture of the video up for those that are just listening to us on the podcast platforms, with the title "Why Street TV uh, mentions Reggie Wright." So we have an image of that up, but um, BJ, I have no information that BJ ever took the stand, and I think Reggie Wright is completely inaccurate in that. He didn't produce any paperwork or any proof or any receipts that BJ did do that. So as far as I'm concerned, BJ never told on that case. And we talked about Bosco in a previous episode of Streets and Scholars, and I think we gave him a pass because bro was like 10, 11, or 12 years old when his mother took him down there to say what he had saw when regarding a shooting. So I don't know why he's calling Bosco a snitch when bro was like a kid when that happened. And regarding Harry O, he's the only one on the internet calling Harry O a snitch, and he has never produced any paperwork, any documents that support that. So again, Reggie, hey, when we spoke about Mob James, man, we have voluminous information that includes all kind of different formats, from paper to photos. So I think that Reggie Wright got to do his homework if he's going to make these allegations, man. Do you remember when we spoke about Bosco in one of our previous episodes?
No, no doubt. But you really got to understand, Alex, and take into consideration, there was a lot of people that felt Bosco was wrong in that situation. You know, me, I blamed his mom. You know what I mean? That's the route I took. I blamed his mom because my mom would have never let me go down there and talk to the police at all. Um, so, you know, you did have mixed views on that. You did have people to say, you know, if that's how they felt he told, you know, they can say that. You know, I took into the accountability of how young he was, and his mom, you know, pressed him to do it. You know, that's why pretty much I, gave him a pass on that one. You know, he was a young kid. As far as the other names that you name, and I don't know anything personally about, you know, either one of the guys. So, but don't forget, man, Reggie be knowing a lot of shit, Alex. You know what I mean? So for him to say the things that he say, I believe that in maybe he have something, or maybe he knows something. I can't say what he know or don't know. You know, it did make my ears prick up when I heard him say that. But at the same time, we can't say what the next man know, um, because shit, we know some shit. You know, we know some motherfuckers that's a suspect. You know, and we could talk about them. You know, we sit here all the time and insinuate the dude might have snitched or might have told. You know, Reggie may feel the same way when it comes to these other dudes, and I just can't knock him on that if he knows something that we don't. I don't know nothing about those dudes' cases or nothing like that, but at the same time, he spoke that shit publicly. He didn't hide. He didn't whisper it to somebody to run and go tell him. He said that shit publicly. So, you know, like I say, he stood on that. Maybe he knows something we don't know, Alex.
Well, if you know something we don't know, he would have rushed to show it, because I remember when we were doing the Gangster Chronicles, he wanted to call Snoop Dogg a snitch for telling about something that happened when he was with Daz Dillinger. So he brought the police report, regarding when he got arrested for being in possession of weed. At the same time, he was trying to tell about something. So usually Reggie Wright is good at bringing receipts. I remember when he was talking about the fake dude from Rolling 60s that had a YouTube channel. I forgot his name,
Mm-hmm.
but Reggie got in touch with the dude's brother. The brother came and said, yeah, the dude is fake.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
could tell you this: Reggie doesn't believe that BJ was at the bathroom during the Suge Knight incident when they were filming the video Cracking for OFTB. And I know for a fact BJ was there. I know that
Mm-hmm.
for a fact BJ was there. So why Reggie would say BJ wasn't there, I don't know. And why Reggie would say BJ actually took the stand when he didn't, I don't know. But that's a couple of things that I think he's mistaken on. And we can move on from that to the next topic, unless you got any last words.
No, no, no. We can move on.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, nobody is going to get arrested, at least from the United States, um, regarding Shanquella Robinson. I don't know if anyone was really expecting someone from the United States to arrest any of those four or five people that were involved. Was you expecting to see any arrest on the U.S.
Hell
side?
yeah, man. Hell yeah, I was. You know, I expected the one girl. I knew her name vividly. You know, a few weeks ago. You know, we go over so much content that I forgot her name. But the one girl who was the suspect, I was expecting her to be arrested. You know, extradited. You know, and tried. You know, what kind of time had she not been found guilty over there? I could have respected that. You know, but they didn't even put the effort in, bro, to arrest these people, take them in, question them, and get a case out of this. You know, this girl was brutally beaten and, savagely beaten. And if she was trying to fight back, or they were just squabbling and she happened to die. That's one thing. I respect that all day long, man. But I don't like bullies. You know, I don't like a motherfucker who, I'm not going to just keep beating up a motherfucker. You know, that's just me. I might be nice as a motherfucker now, but I ain't finna just keep beating up a motherfucker that ain't trying to fight back. So that's where it touched me at. But I did think it would be some kind of repercussions, even if they got acquitted at trial or something. You know, that was how I thought it was gonna go.
Well, I thought the Mexican authorities would charge or indict them, and then maybe the United States would arrest them and send them to Mexico. But the United States can't do anything unless Mexico does something. So apparently Mexico is not doing anything. And let me just play this clip real quick. Oh, let me see here. I got a clip here from the family. This is from TMZ.
It's been nothing but frustration, and it's an emotional roller coaster. Because now we back to the beginning, to how we was feeling 5 months ago when we first heard of her death. So we think it's a sad situation, and I solely stand on that. Those people in that room that was on that trip with my sister caused her death, even though it's some discrepancies between the two examiners, the autopsies, their reports. Both reports, she died a horrific death. Here in the States, she had blunt force trauma. We all know that's to the head, and she suffocated. She had trauma on the report from Mexico as well. So we are at disbelief, and I think the world is at disbelief. How can no charges be brought when we see and witness some form of violent attack towards her? Everybody's seen that video. And then they come back, and here we is. They brought us in a room. It's about 10 or 12 FBI agencies that all had a part in the investigation. And the only thing they can tell us that her death is undetermined. So we baffled, actually, and we're upset, and we exhausted. No family should have to go through what we go through, what we have been through, and then it being public, that makes it even worse.
There you go, man. You can feel the pain. You can feel the hurt that family is going through. But it doesn't seem like there's what can be done. This happened in Mexico. What can be done?
No, definitely. At this point, Alex, there's not much can be done. I mean, you lose faith in the judicial system. Especially when it's yours. The people on the other side, they over there happy. You know what I mean? They got away with one. I'm not mad at them at all. They got away with one, but for the family that's grieving on this end, on Shanquella's end, it's a tragic situation, man.
Yeah, well, if it would have happened like in Phoenix or in Vegas or in Miami, I believe there would have been some charges because that would have been under the jurisdiction of the United States, under whatever state it happened in. But because it happened way over on the other side of the border in Mexico, there's really nothing that the United States authorities can do unless Mexico steps forward. And I don't trust the Mexican government at all. One of the most corrupt governments on this side of the earth. So it seems at this point, nothing's gonna happen.
No doubt, but I do say this though, Alex. Say if one of the, a couple of those friends was of Mexican descent, and she would have been the one on the receiving end of the beating, and end up dying. I do believe that, say, if her parents was originally from Mexico or things of that nature, they would have moved on it. At the end of the day, man, I look at it like, they probably just said, man, we not finna waste our money, on a dead nigga. You know what I mean? Just 100. Our relationship, as far as when you talking about the U.S. and Mexico, that's not a sweet relationship. You know what I mean? They don't like us, just like many other countries don't. You know what I mean? So, they probably even out of spite said we not gonna do shit about it. You know what I mean? So but it's probably been things that happened on our end that we don't know about, that we didn't do what we supposed to do on our end for them. So it could be a lot of politics involved that we don't know about. But just at the end of the day, I know the family is devastated that nothing's gonna happen. But like I say, that don't mean nothing don't gotta happen, you know?
Yeah, if the victim was a Mexican national, someone born and raised in Mexico, I believe Mexico government would have did more. But I can tell you this: if the person was Mexican but of born in the United States, Mexico treats those people differently.
Well, it's
So
no doubt. It's the same way the Africans treat us. You know what I
yeah,
mean? If you go over to Africa, Alex, they don't just welcome us with open arms. We're Americans. You know what I mean? So, you know, a lot of people don't know that. You know, a lot of people sit here and, you know, press the African American thing, but some of those people never been over to Africa. You know, and if you go over there, you may just see a different something else that you like, wow, I thought this was my people's, you know what I mean? And they don't treat us the same, you know?
yeah, I know that Mexicans that are born in LA, when they flee to Mexico to try to run from whatever, the Mexican government will extradite those people right back immediately. But if you're a Mexican national, you're born there, they won't extradite you back to the United States immediately. They make the United States go through all them hoops for a
Right.
Mexican citizen.
Right.
But
Hell yeah.
if you're a homie from LA, but you Mexican, you 100% Mexican, they send you right back without no delays. But I don't know if that's a legal thing or if they just feeling a different kind of way about their Mexicans that aren't born there.
Yeah, it could be both, but you know, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it's politics, man, you know?
Definitely. All right. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like justice for Shanquella Robinson and the Robinson family. It does seem it seems like that's not a possible outcome. But because it happened to Mexico, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any other outcome, and we may never find out the truth of what happened to that young lady in that hotel room, man. Yeah, I wanted to tap in. Let's tap in with this school teacher, man.
Oh man.
A lot of people been talking about this school teacher, and this actually takes me back to my junior high school days, or for all you youngins, the middle school as y'all call it now. Um, I think I'll start off by playing the video, and then we'll talk about it. But let me just set it up real quick. This is a young lady. Young lady in the classroom had a cell phone. I guess the teacher decided to take the cell phone away. The student was feeling a kind of way and wanted her cell phone back. She got all up in her space, and they got to squabbing, and they fell on the floor. And let me play a clip here that came from the local news. This is from WRAL News, and here's the clip.
Right now at 6, Rocky Mount police are investigating after a fight between a substitute teacher and a student. It was all caught on video. Thank you for joining us. I'm Deborah Morgan.
And I'm Gerald Owens. This fight was caught on a cell phone camera by someone in the classroom. Since then, people have shared it more than 800 times on social media. WRO's Destiny Patterson explains this all started over a cell phone.
It started as an argument over a confiscated cell phone, and it quickly escalated. The scuffle ended with substitute teacher Xavier Steele and the unnamed student on the ground. Steele's hands appear to be pressing down near the student's head, and the student screams. It's not clear why Steele took the student's phone.
The cell phones got no place in class. And then you're going to go up there and jump on a teacher or fight a teacher. That is wrong.
WRAL obtained the district's cell phone policy, which says she was within her authority to take it if the phone was visible or the student was using it. The district's assistant superintendent says the employee has the right to, quote, reasonably restrain the student if they're attacked and can defend themselves to the point that they are free of the threat or attack. Betty Atcherson is also a substitute teacher.
If you have not gone into a school recently to see how the kids act, you would just be totally surprised at the disrespect some of them can render.
But she says it shouldn't get physical.
As the adult, that you have to try to contain yourself.
While police are using the word assault, they have not announced any formal charges against either the substitute teacher or the student. The district says that Steele has been working as a substitute teacher since last school year, and because the police and the school district are investigating the incident, at this time it's not clear what the punishments would be, if any at all. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News, Rocky Mount.
We first broke this story on WRAL.com and through our news app.
Man, what a story there. That actually takes me back to my middle school, junior high school days. This ain't nothing new to me. I've actually witnessed it a couple times in my 3 years in middle school. I don't think I've ever witnessed it in high school, but what's your take on all that? Before you start, the teacher's name is they said Xavier, right? It was Xaviera, Xaviera, Steele, Steele. Miss Steele is the teacher, and we don't know the name of the minor, the student.
Right, minor student, yeah. My take on it, bro, is a couple things. Like I said, these students, like the second lady said, these students are very disrespectful, bro, because they parents let them be. If my mom was to have to come up to the school, because I remember we got SWATs in school. When I went to 118th Street Elementary School right there on 118th and Main, we was getting SWATs back when we was in kindergarten. First, second, third grade, we was getting SWATs. I'd rather take that SWAT from the principal, bro, and don't say shit to my parents. Because if I went home and said I got a SWAT, I was finna get my ass whooped again for having to get a SWAT. These parents are different. They gonna go up to the school and say, why'd you hit my kid? Kind of luckily that this situation, I can't say that, it is on video. Because if it wasn't on video, it could be determined that two different people could have two different stories, and the friends of the girl could ride with her and say the teacher was wrong. But we clearly see that she tried to take off on the teacher. The teacher had a damn good block. So I don't know if the teacher been in a few fights, but she blocked that. Girl swung too slow, homie. You know what I mean? The teacher blocked that shit, homie, and got on her, used her weight as leverage, it's unfortunate that you even try to swing on a teacher. Now, on the flip side of that, I do believe that once the students started to get escalated at that point to that degree, I would have handed them their phone, told them, get the fuck out of my class. You know what I mean? And I'm sure the student would have got their shit and left, and that's how it could have been de-escalated, but at the same time, when you trying to command respect as a substitute teacher, because Alex, I know you was spitting them little spitballs out through the straw at the substitute teachers and shit back in the day. Substitute teachers had it hard, bro. You know what I mean? And only the ones we respected is the ones who walked through the door putting it down. You know what I mean? But a lot of them was lackadaisical, happy to just come fill in for the day. So we kind of ran over them a little bit, told them the rules. We don't do that. You know what I mean? So this lady clearly wasn't having it. She took the phone. I'm sure that the girl wanted to fight, not over her taking the phone, but probably what could possibly be seen in the phone. And that shit escalated fast.
Yeah, man. I think the first issue here is the lack of respect that substitute teachers have always received, even before our days in school, probably, man. I'm almost certain that substitute teachers were getting disrespected before I was in junior high and middle school. But this is the type of cell phones that existed when I was in school, and nobody had one of these. None of my colleagues had these when I was a student in school. I used to see grown adults with these cell phones in the late 80s, early 90s. Do you recall anyone ever bringing one of these phones to school when you was going to school?
No, because by the time I got one, I was like a senior coming out of high school. So it was like the summer that I came out of high school that I got my first brick phone, and we used to go to the homie. He hit them. It lasts for 2 weeks or 2 months, and when it turned off, you go get it turned back on. But I've had plenty of those back in the day, bro, but not in school. I didn't know nobody else who had one in school either.
Yeah, and I think the main thing that teachers used to try to confiscate from the students, at least when I was going to junior high and high school, were the Sony Walkmans. That was the thing.
Yeah.
That was the thing that we were told, leave it in your backpack, don't take it out. But, there was always that student that had the headphones on and was listening to it. They had the cassette ones back in the day.
I had those.
You remember them?
Yeah, I had them.
Do you recall any situations in school where teachers were getting upset with all these Sony Walkmans?
No doubt. But like I say, teachers was different back then, and parents was too. Teachers wasn't playing that. Man, you ask my son, little Frank, right now, he happened to, when he got to elementary school, he happened to have one of the same teachers that me and his mom had when we was in elementary school. And the first thing, Frank could tell you this story right to this day, man. He say to teach, he said, "You who, son? And who, son? Oh, okay." Called his mom and said, "Can I whoop him?" You know what I mean? She was like, "Do what you got to do, Miss Holloman." Frank was like, "Damn," and that's how it was back then. But Alice, I had a situation. I wish we could have. I would have gave her a heads up. My homegirl Dimp, Dimp was a year older than me, but we was in the same class. Man, our birthdays on the same day. Love her to death. Is this to this day? She was one of my ride or die homegirls from the hood. She's doing good, doing her shit, grown woman shit now, but definitely was with all the business back then. But me and her got into a fight when I was in the 5th grade. And I hit a teacher. The teacher hit my favorite teacher, Alex. She ran up in between, because Dimp had me by size, you know what I mean? And so we squabbing and shit, and the teacher ran up in the middle, man, and I hit her, Alex. I was like, fuck, and it was an accident, bro. But at the same time, man, I felt bad, as a student. She knew it was an accident. She didn't press hard or try to press no charges or try to, press the line like that. But at the same time, man, these teachers should be respected. They trying to give you an education. They trying to teach you something, trying to teach your dumb ass something, and this situation right here, like I say, was totally out of control. How she let the teacher take the phone, I never even saw that part. It seemed like if she was willing to fight for the phone, she would have never let the teacher take it. Like she would have put it in her pocket and left the class or something. So, however the teacher ended up getting possession of it, I don't know. Was that a physical situation when she took the phone? But at the same time, I'm sure they're doing all the investigation to see if they're going to charge this teacher. I doubt if they do, but she may not be able to teach in that county again.
Yeah, when I was in school, and I'm sure when you was in school too, this was a popular item here, the Sony Walkman. And I remember many teachers getting pissed at us for for pulling it out, for listening to music. We just throw a cassette in one of these things, and I'm shocked that I just pulled up an image of an old Sony Walkman off of eBay, and this old Sony Walkman is going for
still going for
$199.
Damn, that's crazy.
$200.
Yeah, I definitely had one, but at the same time, you was either back in the day, 85, 86, you definitely was. I learned my lesson, walking down the street in the hood with the Sony Walkman on, bumping my little music and shit, and some Crips jumped out on me, man, and I didn't even hear them. You know what I mean? And by the time I even noticed them, I got fired on. You know what I mean? And so I started being careful with them Sony Walkman. There was a lot of dudes slipping, flossing their Walkmans and couldn't hear shit. You know what I mean? But I definitely remember in school, man, we trying to keep them up under the table and had that earpiece on, try to listen to it. But those are classics right there, man. These kids nowadays wouldn't even understand it playing the tape, then having to take it out and flip it over and play the other side. They probably couldn't even deal with that nowadays. You know what I mean? Too much work for them,
And you only got, it depends. Each cassette is just one artist.
Yeah, no doubt. You know what I mean? Unless you had the boom box at home and you was listening to K-Day and you got the one and you put the little stuff in the edges where you can record with it, put the tape on it, and they don't know nothing about that, man. And you make you a video, you make you a little homemade tape, but you got commercials and shit all on it and everything. You know what I mean? But yeah, the Walkmans was classics, man. And then they came with the MP3s, which shit, that was amazing to me because they held 500 songs or something. So technology is a motherfucker. Now we just go to our phone, man, bring up any song ever made and listen to it right then and there. It's crazy.
Yeah, when I was in the 9th grade, I remember this teacher named Mr. Sobel, Sobel. And for whatever reason, I just didn't like his style. I never liked him. He seemed to be a mean guy. And one student got mad at him one day during PE. And I could tell the student was about to just take off on him. And I was standing there saying to myself, I was saying, go ahead, beat up Mr. Sobel. And I think he actually hit Mr. Sobel once or two times. Mr. Sobel was tall. He was able to fight it off. He never hit the student back. And that's an issue here. Should teachers have the responsibility of not necessarily hitting back? In this video we just saw in this clip, not only did the teacher hit back, she kind of body slammed her and then stood over her. And a lot of people think she might have went over the top, but I feel like once anybody, because a ninth grader could be pretty strong and pretty grown, once anybody puts hands on you, at that point everything's off the table. We're gonna squab all the way into the dirt.
No doubt. But at the same time, that's where, as a professional, and you're talking about a teacher, and elsewhere, even at work, Alex, you get into it with coworkers at work, it's a way that you deal with the shit. You don't deal with it like you deal with it, at home or in the streets or with your personal friends. You're in a professional setting. So like I say, that shit could have been de-escalated just based on, I would have gave her a phone, told you get the fuck out of my class, but at the same time, the teacher stood on, no, you ain't getting this back maybe till class over, so, and when it escalated how it did. But like you say, man, you swing at a teacher and that teacher beat your ass, that's kind of really on you, man. You can't just be out here and you can't be taking up for kids that's so disrespectful that they'll swing on the teacher. You got to let that shit ride, man. I have it right back in the classroom the next day teaching the next class, and for the next student to try that shit again with me. And that's the problem with, these soft ass, American values that they trying to put in place at schools, to make it to where the kids can be disrespectful and nothing can be done. Like they don't want you whooping your kids and, just talk to them. You don't have to whoop. Man, some of these kids need their ass whooped. That's just the reality of it. Not all of them. You know what I mean? My 3 youngest kids, man, I've never whooped them ever. No, my 4 last kids, man, I've never whooped them ever. Them first 3, man, I used to whoop their ass, man. They was bad, so that's how society is summing them up. Like, you shouldn't do nothing. If a student swing on you, you should block it or step back and man, fuck all that. You know what I mean? And that's why these kids are so out of control, because they don't respect nothing because they don't have to.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stand with the teacher, Miss Steele, and everything she did to protect herself. I would not have given the cell phone back. Just like any other student who gets their phone taken away, you get it back when they get it back, whether it's the end of the class or the end of the day. She stood on that. And the other girl, not only did the other girl swing first, but she went around, I think she was around the desk on her side in her space, woofing. So I think she had every right to do what she did. I hope they don't discipline her or even terminate her. And man, I know it's so tough being a substitute teacher, man. You were talking about spitballs. I remember we used to take actual full paper. We used to ball up paper, wet it, and throw it at the chalkboard behind when the teacher wasn't looking. And then they would turn around and be like, who threw that? And we had the whole class laughing. But we only did that to the substitute teacher.
Right. But let me ask you this, Alex. Say if it was a substitute teacher, a smaller lady in stature, you know what I mean? Older lady in stature, took the phone and did the same thing, and this young girl would have fired on her and broke her jaw. Now what actions do you take? You know what I mean? Are you going to charge the student? Or are you just going to expel them? Or are you going to say they're a minor? They can't be, or you shouldn't have took their phone. I mean, this can go a couple different ways if the situation would have went different. You know what I mean? So at the same time, if she would have dogged the teacher out, what would be the argument then? What would be the consequences then? Just being expelled when you got a teacher over here with a broke jaw or a black eye or some things of that nature. So basically you would have said, oh, okay, it's all right to sock out a teacher. You're just going to get expelled. You can go to the next school down the road, So I believe sometime, like you say, this teacher did what she had to do to, and maybe it might teach this young girl a lesson. Don't try that shit no more,
Well, I'll tell you what would have happened to her, because I remember Craig Munson, the legendary Craig Munson from LA.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling me a story about one of the first times he ever went to jail. It was Jefferson High School, 1966. He was in the 11th grade.
Damn.
and the teacher got pissed at him, and he knocked the teacher out.
Damn.
He literally knocked the teacher out, went home, and the LAPD came and got his ass, and I think he went to juvenile hall at that, and he went to he might have got sent to Mendenhall juvenile hall. Do they still got Mendenhall? You ever heard of Mendenhall?
They closed it down. Yeah, they closed it down.
Yeah, so he got sent to juvenile hall for knocking a teacher out, and that's what would have happened to this young lady if she would have did that. Would that have been the right thing? Probably, because a girl like that or a dude who wants to put hands on a teacher for the teacher doing the right thing, imposing rules, you're gonna end up going to jail if you put hands on a teacher. But in this situation, she threw a punch. The teacher blocked it. No harm, no foul. I don't think this young lady deserved the student. I don't think the young student deserves to go to jail or juvenile hall, but she should definitely be reprimanded in some kind of way.
Yeah, you got a point there, but let me throw something else out there. That's people that's watching that. It's another lesson to get out of that, Alex. Check this out. Say if it was just the girl and the teacher in there, I don't believe this would have escalated to this point. And this is the same shit that happened at a nightclub. It's the same shit happened at a bar. It's the same shit that happened everywhere. When there's people watching, the young girl felt embarrassed, felt she was getting punked, felt she was, and had to, and felt like she had to do some extra shit, and this is how so much shit get escalated because you feel that you got peers watching, you feel like you gotta, push a certain line because people are watching. I believe it was just that teacher and that student in there. It probably would have been some argument, but I don't think she would have took it that far. I believe sometime that the crowd hype people up and then get a person in a situation that they didn't want to be in because they trying to appease the crowd or a reputation that they supposed to have because people are watching, and that's clearly what I really believe. I believe this student, had it been a one-on-one, they would have probably argued and probably explained. The student could have even said, look, I apologize. I won't bring it no more. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? But when you got people watching, when you got your friends watching, when you got people ooh and on, because you heard the crowd as soon as the fight took off. Ooh, you know what I mean? And sometimes, I hate when people let the crowd dictate how they gonna handle a situation. You know what I mean?
Also, one of the students who recorded it pulled out their phone when they knew something was about to go down. And I wonder if the student that pulled out their phone and documented it, if that student was going to be reprimanded or violated any rules, because we should have rules about what goes on in the classroom. People should be pulling out their phones and recording. I know it's evidence now. The police will use that as evidence. We always want to see the video, but I really don't need to see the video. I really don't need to see the fight. I already would know what would happen. I already know substitute teacher, disrespectful student, and it was a fight. It's probably the student's fault. I don't need to see the video.
Yeah, but at the same time, men lie, women lie. That video don't, man. So sometimes it helps people sometimes, But I feel what you're saying, Yeah, that was wild. All right, what state was that in?
I believe Rocky Mount. I forgot where Rocky Mount.
Yeah, it was Rocky Mount. Something. Yeah.
But I'm standing with the teacher, Miss Steele. She shouldn't get charged. Rocky Mount is in North Carolina. Do you you agree with that? She should not get charged, or do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
All right, man. Let's move on to this story that you put me onto. This story, the 84-year-old man that decided to shoot this young kid, 16-year-old kid, Ralph Yarl. I got a clip here of the district attorney from Kansas City deciding to file charges on this old man, this 84-year-old man. And then we'll talk about it real quick. Because a lot of people, man, this is a story that's been going viral, and it's got a lot of racial undertones to it. So here we go.
After a thorough review of the case file, the appropriate laws, and information gained during the investigation phase of the case, I filed 2 felony counts.
Tonight, the Clay County prosecutor announces charges against an 85-year-old man accused of shooting a teenager in a case of a mistaken address. The teenager, Ralph Yarl, is now out of the hospital at home recovering tonight. I'm Lauren Halifax.
And I'm John Holt. Andrew Lester tonight charged with felony assault in the first degree and armed criminal action. Fox 4's Russell Colburn was there for the Clay County prosecutor's announcement within the last hour. What else did we learn, Russ, from prosecutor Zachary Thompson?
Well, we did just get our hands on this new charging document that really has a lot more information about the case, and it all came after that news conference with Thompson right here at the Clay County Courthouse that wrapped up about 40 minutes ago live here on Fox 4. Take a look at a new mugshot here of Andrew Lester. Prosecuting attorney Zachary Thompson says the 85-year-old white man shot 16-year-old black teen Ralph Yarl Thursday night. He's now wanted for assault in the first degree, a Class A felony that could be punishable by up to life in prison. He also faces charges of felony armed criminal action, which is punishable by 3 to 15 years. He'll have a $200,000 bond. Today, Thompson made it clear Lester shot through a glass door at Yarl, who never entered the home. Yarl told police he was shot in the head and then on the ground in the arm, and he says Lester told him, quote, "Don't come around here." Yarl was trying to pick up his brothers, but went to the wrong house. Lester, meantime, told officers he was trying to go to sleep when he heard the doorbell and immediately went for his .32 caliber Smith & Wesson, saying he feared for his life seeing Yarl on his doorstep. Prosecutors say he knowingly caused the serious physical harm to Yarl and announced those charges. Thompson standing by the KCPD investigation, saying nothing was out of the ordinary here, saying no one is above the law.
In Clay County, we enforce the laws and we follow the laws, and that does not matter where you come from or what you look like or how much money you have. Everyone is held to the same standard.
Now the question is where Lester may be. There is a warrant out for his arrest. KCPD told me yesterday they don't think he is a flight risk, but he was released within 24 hours per Missouri law that night because at the time there were no charges. Guys?
Since this story just dropped, the old man, Mr. Lester, has turned himself in. He's pled not guilty, and he's made bail. So Mr. Lester is now going to be fighting the case at the age, they said 85 years old in this video. I believe he's 84.
Yeah,
but,
well, that's what I read, 84, yeah.
So, man, he's fighting the case for shooting this 16-year-old kid that came to his front door, man. And there's two ways to look at this, FG.
Mm-hmm.
This might have racial undertones, and he just saw a black kid at his front door, and it turns out the black kid may have been there by a mistake because he went to the wrong house, or the other way I was reading that this black kid actually tried to open the door. It was locked. The old man heard him and then just started busting at him. How do you look at this situation?
I look at it for what it was, bro. I mean, the kid said that he didn't try to open the door. That's his word. That's what he said. I did the statement that the prosecutor or the DA right there spoke on said that dude say when he heard his doorbell ring, he reached for his .32. When he saw a black kid at his door, he feared for his life and started busting. Did you fear for your life because you saw a black kid? He's 84 years old. In Missouri, it's almost fair for me to say that he grew up with some kind of racial situations back then. You 84 years old, bro. It was pretty racist back in Missouri, 60 years ago. Probably still is, definitely. I know my whole father's side of the family is from Kansas City, Missouri. My auntie tell me all the story. My auntie is 86. So she tell me stories about when they couldn't even go in certain restaurants and go in certain places to, buy stuff. I go in and tell me the whole rundown, So it's very safe for me to say that, he grew up racist, even by default, just because maybe that's how it was in Missouri 60 years ago, and that'll still put him at 24. So when you're talking about 70 years ago, at 14, come on, man, you know what it is, so therefore, he saw a black kid on his porch. He probably really never do have visitors, though, without them letting him know they come and the things of that nature. But he was still on the porch. I don't know Missouri law like California law, because California law, you have to be inside the house and attacking somebody before you can legally shoot them, and get away with it. You shot through the door. You shot through a locked door, and it sounds like like when the kid ran, you ran outside and shot him again in the arm. Not to mention, you said, don't come around here. That's the part I did catch. Don't come around here. Hold on. What if I live down the street? Or my brother's is in one of these houses, so I'm from around here. So what do you mean don't come around here? So they hit him with the $200,000 bail. He bailed out, and he got a case on his hand. But I believe he definitely was in the wrong.
Now the whole community, I saw some footage of the community going to his house. There had to be at least like 75, 100 people on the block. Did you catch that? These protests now going on his street?
No, they pulled up on him, and they gonna, they gonna investigate it. They gonna get to the bottom of it, But this was a kid as well, Maybe he can't see that good. Maybe he don't even know what he shot. Maybe he, but you was in fear for your life for somebody that's just at your front door. That's kind of wild,
Yeah, this reminds me of that other case where the young man got chased down in the white community. He was jogging through. Damn, I can't remember his name. It's slipping my
Yeah,
tongue.
I remember that case. Yeah.
And they arrested all three white guys, but their defense was kind of similar to what Andrew Lester was saying. Their defense was like, this guy was stealing stuff out of people's houses, and they got into a tussle with him. And this, unfortunately, he didn't survive. Whereas Ralph Yarl, he's actually still in the hospital recovering, and it looks like he's going to live. So that's a good, at least the bright side of this story is that Andrew Lester did not kill Mr. Yarl, 16 years old. Looks like he's going to survive, but it looks like he might end up going to prison in his 80s, which is crazy.
I mean, but at the end of the day, Alice, when is this shit gonna stop? You know what I mean? It like they say, like, I ain't just saying I believe, dude, but it shouldn't matter how old you is, man. You still, hell, you was capable and competent enough to grab that pistol and use it. Then you need to be capable and competent to stand trial on it, So, we getting tired of seeing these same situations, these same actions, of white folks shooting black kids, man, and they sweeping it under the rug. This shit got to stop.
The young brother I was trying to remember was Ahmaud Arbery.
Exactly.
And all three of those white guys were found guilty, and they were given significant sentences. They weren't as old as Mr. Lester. I think it was a father and a son.
Right.
The father had to be in his early 60s. He got washed up. So it looks like that this man, Mr. Lester, according to what we see so far, is going to have to answer these two felony charges, and one of these felony charges is actually a life sentence in the state of Missouri. So we'll see if he's going to put up a significant defense, or maybe you think the state of Missouri might just give this guy a deal? It's kind of hard prosecuting an 84-year-old man. Doesn't happen every day.
It don't, but it all depends on how they want to label their city, how they want to label their town, how they want to divide their town. Because you see the protesters are out there. So if the protesters are out there at this point, you acquit this dude or you give him a slap on the wrist, the protesters going to be back out there. Your city going to be back on the news. You're going to be known for being, soft on crime and or racist. You know what I mean? So the town may not even want that, saying, man, this dude is expendable. You know what I mean? He done lived his life. He been out here 84 years. You made a conscious decision to shoot a kid. Look at him. He trying to play the hunched over role. He probably should stand straight up when he at the house. You know what I mean? You wasn't hunched over when you popped that 32 probably, So we definitely gonna see. But I best believe that, it's people in the town that's riding with him. So this could divide their little town, so let's keep an eye on this one.
I already know how this is going to play. They're going to say that Ralph Yari was possibly trying to go into the house to burglarize it, and that they had a series of burglaries on that street in the last year. Same thing that they did to Ahmaud Arbery, and that this guy had a legitimate fear, and that's why he shot him. I just hope Ralph Yari really went to the wrong house. If he really went to the wrong house, Andrew Lester is going to be done, Yeah. But that's the way this defense is going to go. And when they did the Ahmaud Arbery defense, I was actually almost convinced because they had footage of people going into abandoned houses. They even had footage of Ahmaud Arbery on that block before. But at the end of the day, the jury did not find that the shooting of him in front of that truck was justifiable, and that's why all of them got washed up. And I'm almost certain that they're going to try to do some sort of defense like that for Mr. Lester, especially being an 84-year-old man.
Well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. He bailed out right away, so he may got some bread stacked away. He may come away with a good defense that, like you say, argue that same exact situation. That's where it becomes a pissing contest between the prosecutor and the attorneys. You know how politics work, depending on who know who. Sometimes it matters. You know what I mean? If you come up in there with a black district attorney, she may want to fight harder than the next guy. Not saying that, white guy won't get the job done. I'm just saying sometime in these situations, it depends on who's who and how it goes, So let's see how hard this district attorney fight to get this dude prosecuted opposed to giving him a deal.
Yeah, I don't really know much about Kansas City. You say you got some family tied to that town. All I know about Kansas City is the Royals, the baseball team, the Royals. George Brett. I used to watch them guys in the 70s and the 80s. When I was in the 70s, I used to watch all these baseball games as a kid. And the only time Kansas City came on my radar was when the Kansas City Royals were playing.
Yeah, no doubt. But, my daughter had a few volleyball tournaments down there, man. When they got down there, Gwen rolled out the red carpet for them, man. Took them to Gates Barbecue, and she going to tell you, go down there, Gwen going to take you to get some barbecue, man. Some of the best barbecue we done had. But she also going to tell you the history of it. She been there all her life, She 86, it's my dad's sister. And she going to lay it out for you what was what. And as my auntie, they don't forget those days. They don't have no problem telling you about how, the racial tones of when they was growing up as kids, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, how it was in Missouri back then, so then this dude was 84, so like I say, we gonna see what the prosecutors and how they respond to this, if they gonna do the right thing or if they gonna sweep it under the rug for they folks. But I definitely, want to see it. Like you say, I'm just glad the kid made it. And I just hope that, like you say, he really went to the wrong house, So let's see how that pan out.
Well, the DA there in Clay County, he looked like he was about business. It looked like he's really about to prosecute this thing. I don't know if he's just an actor. I don't know if this is theatric, but just based on that news clip that we just heard, he seemed like he was basically messages nobody's above the law, no matter your age either.
No doubt, but he could also have some political dreams and, aspects of it. He may be moving up in that town. He may be trying to get to be a judge one day. You never know. So, like you say, depending on when I go back to the politics of all this shit, depending on what his angle is, as well, and if he want to look soft on crime, or is he really there to say, no, something got to change in this county, they may not stretch the guy out, but I mean, they may come up with a prosecution to get him some time behind bars. But even some time behind bars for him look like he wouldn't last too long in that situation anyway, though. Any time down there for him might be a life sentence. If you give him 2 years, he might not make that. You feel me?
Yeah, and last thing I wanted to mention is that one of those injuries that the 16-year-old boy Ralph Yari sustained was to the head. So
yeah,
I was
no doubt.
Benjamin Crump gave a press conference and he said only through a miracle that this guy is actually still alive. It's not like this dude got shot in the toe, got shot in the elbow. This guy took something to the head, and it's just amazing that this young kid is still living, man.
Right, that's cool though.
All right, man, let's tap in with our final topic. This was a topic that you brought to my attention the other day. I think you even said that I might not believe it because the dude was talking about the BTB Savage shooting. So I tapped in with the link you sent me, and the dude seems a little thorough. He seems a little thorough. Like I'm just feeling him. You know what I'm saying?
Right, no doubt. Like I say, we get a whole lot of, DMs and messages from from listeners, man, and this guy, his name was Sean Williams. He sent this, he said, man, FG, have you and Alex seen this? And I was like, no. And when I listened to it, I was like, it started making me, I'm not like a conspiracy theory type of dude, but at the same time, this dude had a few points, you know what I mean? So what you think about it?
Well, I want to play a clip. It's actually an 8-minute clip of this guy responding to the BTB Savage shooting. And this guy actually says that what we think happened is not what happened. He's saying that the Omar Richardson, who is the victim in San Antonio, was not there to rob BTB, that it was the other way around. It was BTB robbing Omar Richardson. And that's what this whole thing was about. And the guy also says he's tapped in with Omar Richardson's sister. And this is how he got all the information. And I'm just going to play, let's play just a minute or so of the clip, and then we'll talk briefly about it.
Okay.
Because I think he was actually making some good points. And I think that some of his points are legitimate. And because BTB got killed, see, the thing about it is, even though BTB was cleared because of self-defense, it doesn't mean that San Antonio can't file charges on him at another date. Just that, all that means is at that time,
at this point, we can't prosecute this in this way. Yeah.
And the dude in the video was kind of alluding to that. So let me play just a little bit of it, because and I'll put a link to the entire 8-minute clip below. But I'm just gonna play just a little bit right here. Here's the brother talking about it right now.
So Omari Richardson's sister hit me up. She reached out to me, and she basically claiming BTB Savage lied on the Vlad TV interview, and she's claiming that BTB Savage is the one that robbed and killed her brother, not her brother tried to rob him. So y'all take this with a grain of salt. Either you believe it or you don't. For her safety, I will not be disclosing how she looked. I will not be disclosing her name, no videos, no nothing. But this is the story she told me. She said her brother was known for selling weed. And BTB Savage, this wasn't a stranger to her brother. Her brother has been at BTB Savage's house plenty of times and has sold BTB Savage weed plenty of times. BTB Savage, also his apartment, you need basically a gate pass to get in, which her brother had a gate pass, is even how he had to get in. So she said about the story about him not knowing her brother is false. She also said, who would let a complete stranger in their house at that time of night without knowing them? But she said her, the nephew, which is Omari Richardson's son, and Omari Richardson, they basically went upstairs. Omari went in the house after getting a phone call from BTB Savage saying he needed some bud, and he didn't let the sister or the son in. They had to wait outside. After Omari walked in, he locked the door. So that was the first lie he told, according to her. She said they waited outside and they could hear scuffling. They heard scuffling, then they heard gunshots. Then they heard more scuffling, then they heard gunshots. She said Omari told them, they trying to rob me. They trying to rob me. Shoot through the door. So she said that's when the son, which is a teenager, and they all know this, so I'm not saying nothing. I got the okay to say this. Tried to shoot through the door to shoot the lock off, but he couldn't.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. That's 2 minutes into the video. But it's really interesting because he's basically saying the sister was present. So the sister that this man in this video is quoting is a sister that was there. Okay,
right.
She was there, but according to what he's saying, the sister and the other young man had to wait outside while they did their weed transaction, and then that's when whatever happened between BTB and Omar Richardson, whatever happened between them happened in that room while everybody else was outside. But the other person in the room was the girlfriend of BTB. So girlfriend of BTB, and Omar Richardson are in this room doing a weed transaction. And I'm convinced that these two dudes knew each other before this situation.
I am convinced of that. Yeah.
So
now,
go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about it is when they go on and watch more of this video, he goes on to say that the guy also had a substantial amount of money in his pocket, but when they recovered the body, he didn't have any money in his pocket, So this guy goes on to say a lot of things that makes you really be like, damn, you get a chance, y'all go in there, y'all check out that clip, make a determination for yourself. Hit us on Streets and Scholars in the DM, streets.n.scholars, or, hit up me or Alex Alonso, tell us what you think. But at the same time, man, this dude has some very legitimate points that he was making, from a person he's saying was there, I know they may not want to come on record based on if they did shoot through the door. That's a whole nother situation, you know what I mean? Or try to shoot the lock off and things of that. So I know why sometimes people don't say certain shit, but at the same time, man, this dude had a lot of seem like intel on this situation that did make sense. I'm not just saying he 100% telling the truth. I'm saying a lot of the shit he was saying did make sense.
And they may have fooled the San Antonio Police Department into thinking that it was Omar Richardson there to rob him, as opposed to him trying to rob Omar Richardson. I just wonder if San Antonio Police spoke to the sister. The San Antonio Police get the whole story from the other two people that were outside, and maybe they did and didn't believe them, right?
No, maybe they didn't at first. Maybe it came afterwards after they released this dude, said, look, we don't got enough. Maybe things started coming up in the air and they went back and started looking around. Maybe they still looking around. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, man, if this dude is saying is have any truth to it, I mean, he's basically saying the sister told him. He said he had permission to say it, shit, they may come back and reopen this thing. You never know.
Yeah, well, if they reopen it, there's no one to charge now because BTB is dead because another guy in Houston caught up with him.
You got a point there. Yeah, you got a point there.
Caught up with him in Houston. And now it kind of gives you you got to think about the motive now. We thought the motive for this dude Montreal that got arrested for killing BTB was because maybe he was bragging and boasting and going on the internet, which is probably still part of it. But maybe it's because he knows that this dude was there to rob his homeboy. And this dude took money that maybe both of them was tied into. The guy in the video says it's $30,000. So if you listen to the whole clip, he's claiming that Omar Richardson had $30,000. And maybe that's the reason why Montreal is like, this dude, BTB is really a liar. And that's why he probably caught up with him in Houston.
Could be, but at the same time, I do have to say, from the B2B side, why would you rob somebody at your own spot? You know what I mean? And unless you planned on getting out of that spot sometime soon, because you damn sure couldn't rob nobody there and still stay there. You don't get me wrong, there's discrepancies on both sides, but I'm just wondering what the real is, This guy who's speaking right here on this clip, man, he seemed to have a lot of knowledge, based on he's saying, man, the sister was there and she told me this personally. He went online to say this, but it's a lot of questions on both sides. But like you say, it probably never get addressed just based on B2B is no longer here, so they may just let it go.
Well, the young guy in the video continues to say that BTB was not from San Antonio. So really this wasn't his spot. This wasn't his town. This wasn't his location.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So BTB could have been on some bullshit, man. And then it go the way he wanted to go. Well, it did go the way he wanted to go, but at the end it didn't, so like you say, and one thing I do know, one thing for sure, two things for certain, we hear shit on the internet all the time about how something happened until you run into somebody who was there, and they tell you that ain't how it happened. What happened was, and we don't come back and repeat it. But at the same time, Alex, we have been in situations where the story went one way and then you come back and hear from somebody who was actually there, and that's not how it went, and you get the real story. So I'm wondering what the real story is on this one. BTB might have got away with one. You know, I've seen it happen, you know, and but it caught up with him on the back end.
Yeah, and the sister of Omar Richardson is probably the most reliable person to hear from. But unfortunately, according to this guy in the video, he said that for her protection, he ain't going to give her name or say who she is. But maybe in the future, she'll decide to come forward and say, this is what really happened to my brother, and speak on it. And I'm going to try to tap in with the guy in the video since he feels so comfortable talking about it, and maybe get him on the show next week.
Yeah, see if we can get him on here, yeah.
And if he's listening, man, just tap in with us, man. So before we wrap it up, FG, where can the people find you at, man?
Man, they finding me, man, over there on Instagram, man. F General 1 on Instagram. You know, I still got videos over there on FG Unleashed. You know, nothing new, but believe me, when something comes, it's gonna come. And that's where I'm at, bro.
I'm at Alex Alonso 101. Hit me up on Twitter and Instagram. And real quickly, I was at the Tory Lanez hearing this week actually, and it's been postponed again until May 8th. May 8th.
Oh, okay.
May 8th is going to be the day that they argue the motions for a retrial. That's what the defense is trying to do, is get in a retrial for Tory Lanez. And we'll find.
And what you call it is still in reception. Eric Holder, he's still in reception.
Yeah, Eric Holder is still in reception, and that's.
I want to see where he land. Yeah, I want to see where he land at.
Yeah, we'll find out where he lands at. Probably in less than a month. Who knows?
Okay.
Maybe. We'll find out if he's going to a general population yard or if he's going to PC up. Everybody on the streets wants to know where he's going to be at.
Now that might be a bet out there. That might be a wager out there on the line. It might be a line for that, man.
I hope he goes general population and just handles his candle, and I think eventually he'll win people over, man. What do you think?
I mean, like I said, definitely can go that way, but at the same time, man, when you talk about that state prison, man, all it takes is one dude that don't agree with it, you know, and so at the same time, like I say, I do believe he's gonna, have some consequences and repercussions, but I'm not saying he no buster that he can't, handle his candle, as you say, and so we gonna see which route he go, on this gangster shit. You know what I mean? Some gangster shit was done. You supposed to keep it gangster all the way through, and I'm looking to see, which side of the road he take, in his journey is.
All right, man. So tap in with FG Unleashed. Hopefully he'll be putting some new content up soon. Maybe he'll put some commentaries, because I know he got a lot of stories, but he's been holding back on a lot of them stories. Eventually, hopefully, he'll drop some. And then tap in with Street TV. I've been dropping some content, and I got a whole bunch of videos I'm gonna be dropping this week. And thanks for listening to another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.